welcome to yet another episode of NDC TV. This time also we're at the Follaug localities downtown Oslo with a fantastic view. And I've been so lucky to have on interviewing today Mr. Torkild Follaug, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer in Green Mountain. And me and Torkild, we are going to talk about all the challenges the data centers has in terms of fulfilling all the requirements for being sustainable, how Norway has a good position in this, and how Green Mountain is leading the way on this. So please stay tuned, and if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe to NDC TV. So Torkild, let's just fire away. Please tell me about your roles and why Green Mountain saw a need for hiring a Chief Sustainability Officer.
Green Mountain's value proposition is very much about sustainability. It's in our name and it's in our vision, setting the green standard. So what we aim to do is to push the envelope on sustainability and to continuously work to deliver the most sustainable data center services in the market, now and in the future. So this being a vital part of our value proposition, it was important for Green Mountain to have the right focus on sustainability and to have an entity within the company that could coordinate all the efforts summing up and moving towards our vision. So that was the start of forming the sustainability department in Green Mountain, and I have the role of leading that department. And what we do is to work across the company, across sites, across the departments, to coordinate, facilitate, initiate all the activities needed to sum this up, because sustainability is really a broad domain. It covers everything from environment, social responsibility, to governance and everything in between. So this is really, it's a mouthful. And that's why we also have divided this term sustainability up into 7 focus areas, just to make it more tangible. And what we do when we talk about the sustainability is, the 7 focus areas are energy, greenhouse gas emissions, waste, water, biodiversity, social responsibility, and governance. And all of these focus areas needs to be addressed in order to have the platform you need to deliver the most sustainable data center services.
It sounds like you have a very comprehensive set of topics that you are embracing in this space of sustainability. So I think we can't do a deep dive in this interview, but let's touch upon some of the most important topics. And first of all, I just want to take 2 steps back and ask you, why do we need data centers? Because that's a question that arises on everybody's lips from day to day.
Yes, that's a question we meet or we get often. And I'm glad you asked that question, because in terms of climate change, the green shift, data centers have a vital role. The EU talks about the twin transition, not only the green transition. And what I mean by that is we need to succeed in both the green transition and the digital transition, and they are connected. Digital Europe has calculated that IT technologies, digital technologies alone can represent a CO2 reduction of 20% globally. That's substantial. And what they mean by that is if societies around the world succeed in implementing digital technologies and utilizing IT and digital technologies, we can move from old ways of doing things which have a high carbon emission to a new and digital way of doing things with a lower CO2 emission. And I think every one of us has experience in this. And it's like we do Teams meetings or Zoom meetings. and not meeting physically. That lowers the CO2 emissions. We send emails. We don't use the mail services anymore. All these digital services has replaced an old way of doing things and lowering the carbon footprint. Digitization is important to succeed with the green shift. And if you are to succeed with digital transition, you need digital infrastructure. And that's where data centers come into play, because data centers are the nodes and the engines of the digital infrastructure.
Okay, so let me ask you this question again. As we will, in Norway, we like to pride ourselves that we are very sustainable. Like we were bragging about having the greenest and oil and gas industry in the world, which is kind of ironic in my view. But that said, why would Norway have such a good position standing behind the proposition that we are one of the most sustainable countries for establishing data centers? Take us through that.
We have a lot of advantages, natural given advantages in Norway. In the sustainability domain, it really comes into play. So what we do have is a lot of water, a lot of hydropower. That of course is one of the most important inputs into a data center is power. So in Norway, renewable power is highly available. That's a huge advantage. And in addition to that, we have cold climate. Cold climate is important when it comes to energy efficiency, because these data centers needs a lot of cooling. I would guess everyone has had their laptop and watching Netflix or whatever, and really felt the heat coming from the laptop. The same process is happening in the data center, but at a much larger scale. So all this heat needs to be removed from the data center, and that in a cool climate we can do that more efficient compared to a warmer climate. We have a lot of water, as I said. That's also beneficial because with no water stress and abundant water, we can utilize the water to increase energy efficiency, lower noise, for instance, and there's a lot of benefits to it. And I must mention also, in Norway now we have skills, knowledge, competence, which is needed to grow the data center industry going forward, and that's also very important.
The way you explain the data center, for me, it really looks like more or less like an ordinary process industry facility, that you have the need for all the skill sets in terms of electricians, plumbers, welders, whatever is needed to make this happen, and then automaticians and what you call them. We are often talking in terms of sustainability, we're talking about the greenhouse gas protocol with the scope 1, 2 and 3.
Sure. So
please explain to me, where does Norway excel? On which areas does Norway excel, and where do we need to improve the overall sustainable footprint?
Okay, so let's just take them on numerical. So scope 1 is all about our direct emissions of carbon or CO2. Data centers are from start very, very clean because we use mostly electricity from the grid. So it's not really like other process industries.
No smokestacks.
No smokestacks, and no transportation out from the facility. So it's really clean from the start. But what we do have, in order to have 100% uptime at our data centers, we need backup power. We have a lot of systems to secure that these data centers are not in shortage of energy. We have redundant power supplies, but we also have our own power generation at site. Today, the most common solution is diesel generators. The whole idea is that we should not need the diesel generators, but they are there just in case we have a grid fallout. Yeah. So when we have them, we must make sure that they will operate the day that we really need them. And in order to be 100% certain that they will start and operate according to plan, we need to, as part of our maintenance, we need to start them regularly. I think basically once a month. We start the diesel generators, and that's where we create our direct carbon emission, and that's scope 1.
Exactly. So a quick question attached to that. So do you see that it's going to be any change in the fuel for fueling the diesel generators?
It's a good question because, and this is our direct CO2 emissions, and our focus is that we need to transform from today's solution with diesel generators to a future fossil-free solution on backup power. And there are a lot of interesting things happening in the market and technology-wise today. So what we have started on is to test fossil-free fuel called HVO.
Yeah.
So we're currently testing it. This can bring the CO2 emission levels down substantially. So this is next step.
Right.
And then from HVO, we have other kinds of fuels that are interesting.
Yeah.
Biogas, for instance. There are some challenges with the supply. So we need to make sure also that the supply chain is in order. Because if and when we need it, we need a volume.
Exactly.
And that needs to be secured, of course. And then if we look further ahead, there's other solutions that are interesting to look into. Green hydrogen is on many lips these days. Already today there are solutions for fuel cells and the utilization of green hydrogen. It's a cost question.
But it's also an availability question.
It's an availability question, yeah. But we are looking into it. Green hydrogen, ammonia, interesting things. And in Norway we have a strong maritime industry. So we are looking closely at what they are doing. And basically, if you can run a seagoing vessel on ammonia or green hydrogen, we can technically wise definitely run a backup power generation on the data center. So that on the technical side there are solutions. These solutions needs to be deployed and developed, and prices needs to come down. On the other side, we have all our customers and their requirements. We need also to look at how can we organize the data center capacity to further strengthen the resilience without over-investing in emergency power. So if we can lower the need for emergency power generation, that would be a huge benefit. And back to the benefits of Norway. In Norway, we have a really strong and resilient power grid.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to look at this in a holistic way to come up with future solutions. But what we do know is that future solutions are fossil-free, carbon-free, and so that's what we're aiming for.
It's good. It sounds promising. It sounds like you have a lot of material for another episode when the technology evolves. But I derailed you on your explanation of the Greenhouse gas protocol.
Okay. So that's very much the content of Green Mountain Scope 1 carbon emissions. Scope 2. It's about the electricity and the power we buy from the grid. And as we have touched upon, in Norway, there's a huge availability of green hydropower. And that is, of course, very beneficial and gives us low CO2 emissions on the power supply. What we do in Green Mountain is also to secure the power supply with guarantees of origin.
Is that really needed?
It is needed if we are to follow the GHG protocol.
All right, okay.
We need to report in two dimensions. It's market-based and location-based.
Okay.
And we do report on both of them. So market-based is what you have of CO2 emissions and what you can retract from it with guarantees of origin, with other kinds of market instruments to lower your CO2 emissions. The location-based reporting scheme is what it is.
Right.
So you can't on the location-based you can't utilize the market-based instruments, but we report on both of them. And of course, what is important is really what is the actual CO2 footprint.
Yes.
Yeah.
This brings us to scope 3.
Scope 3. And that's a big area. Yeah. This is where we find the largest CO2 emissions. So scope 3 covers basically the whole value chain. Yeah. This is everything we purchase, everything we buy, and also some of the things that we are selling. So it's both upstream and downstream emissions. So these are huge numbers, and it's in many cases very difficult to get a grasp of what it actually is, because we need insight from the value chain, from our suppliers, partners, and so on. But this is an ongoing work. So what we are working on these days is we try to make all the data available, and we transform them from being cost-based. It's a factor. You have a certain type of purchase. How much money did you spend on it? And we multiply it by a factor to get the CO2 emission. So that's a way to come around it. But what we are really interested in is what is the actual CO2 emissions. When we get that overview, we are in a much better position to differentiate the different solutions, the different suppliers. Of course, to motivate, engage suppliers in lowering their CO2 emissions, and then ultimately choosing the best players in the class.
Exactly. So that should also be a good motivation for the suppliers to comply and to report the actual facts and figures.
Yes, definitely. So what we have in Scope 3 is a lot of different categories. Everything from workers commuting to work, to business travel, to capital goods, Green Mountain designs, builds and operate data centers. When it comes to construction, that's where we really have the biggest numbers on embedded CO2 or CO2 in the Scope 3 category.
Let's talk about data centers as really energy intensive facilities. We consume a lot of energy. And the way I understand now that you say Norway is favorable because we have a cold climate, so we can easily just throw away the heat. So I know, we all know that the authorities are looking to ways to regulate this business, to reuse this energy once again. To my mind, it hasn't taken off yet, because it's obviously there's a lot of challenges with this. So please take us through your perspective on this and what you have achieved so far.
So first of all, I would like to say, yes, data centers are large consumers of energy. But what we have to keep in mind is that we are also large contributors to value creation on that energy. So it's not like we are wasting the energy. And yes, we are committed to use renewable energy. That gives us a big responsibility in using this energy as efficient as possible.
Right.
And we have done some reports lately on economic impact that shows that the data center industry is really, we have good results when we analyze the value creation of data center operations. And that's very good. At the same time, we need to be as energy efficient as possible so that we do not waste energy, of course. And that's, as we spoke about, Norway with cold climate, a lot of water. Yeah, it's a good environment to make a sustainable data center. The fact that we do consume a lot of energy, it doesn't go away. For everyone that remembers from back from the school days, as we know, energy does not disappear, it just changes form. So theoretically, all the energy that we put into the data center converts to heat. In that process, we have created a lot of value for our customers, for the market, for local communities, for Norway as such. But we do have this energy that is heat. We would really like to get to the point where we have an efficient reuse of that energy, that excess heat from the data centers. So what has happened, let's say 10 years, is that the focus has been to capture that energy, capture the heat, making it available for second-hand use. So that means that when we are designing and building data centers today, we are building them ready for excess heat offtake. The cooling processes in data centers may vary, but basically the heat from the data rooms or the data halls is in water, and it's in closed water loops. So our design allows for, so these water loops are exposed, so it allows for connecting them to a heat exchanger and making it possible to transport the heat out of our facilities.
Ready to be picked up by
Ready
any
to be
off-takers.
picked up. And what we need is we need partners, we need activities outside our fence that can utilize the energy in a good manner.
If you look at markets outside Norway, like there is one go-to solution for this heat reuse, and it's district heating.
Yes.
Why don't we see this happening more in Norway? There's probably some obvious reasons for that.
Yeah, and I think the most obvious reason for that is that district heating has a low market penetration in Norway. So district heating is not really available everywhere. If you look in the European continent, it's pretty much available everywhere. So that's one part of it. And also in the areas where we have district heating in Norway, these are, and this is infrastructure that is based on a very high temperature.
Yeah.
And in Norway, we use waste incineration as the primary source for energy into the district heating systems.
The last time I checked, that has a lot of CO2 emission.
Yeah.
But that,
it does, and I'm not
that's
going to
another
answer for that. But yeah, so that's the situation. And just to explain it, because what we produce is a low temperature heat, typically 25 degrees. That's very low, and that makes it difficult. If we have a district heating system or infrastructure just outside our fence, it's not a very good idea to just directly put 25 degrees into a 110 degrees district heating. So you need to rise the temperature in order to make that happen. And
yeah, so you have to use a lot of heat pumps, probably two-stage heat pumps to do it, and that's in itself is energy demanding.
That's correct, and we can technically it's doable. But what you do if we are to do that, it's basically to electrify parts of the district heating system. Yeah. And as long as you have an abandoned or a large source of heat from waste incineration, it's difficult to get the business case going when it comes to our low temperature heat. So, but we are looking at this, and it's happening a lot of interesting things on technology and heat pumps and so on. So it's.
But Torkild, it must be more use cases in Norway than just the district heating, because if you look from, if you take away the big cities in Norway, there is basically 0% of district heating infrastructure available for data centers.
Yeah, so yes, you're right, and that's why we are on a constant search for players that can utilize the energy of our excess heat on a lower temperature. And our initiatives today, we have several projects going on. We have identified some interesting industries, and I can mention aquaculture, land-based aquaculture. They can typically utilize heat on a lower temperature, and that's very interesting because they also need a lot of energy. So that's a good match. And we have partners within aquaculture, and together with them we are exploring how to optimize and set up an infrastructure between those data centers and aquaculture to have efficient heat reuse. So I think that's probably one of the most promising areas because of low temperature and a large energy need. Yeah, but we are also looking into other sectors.
I was thinking that just something that came into my mind. You were talking about aquaculture, and these fish in the aquaculture, for them to grow, they need a lot of food.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be, maybe hypothetically, but it should be possible to grow food that's optimized for fish based on reusing heat from data centers? That would be quite a comprehensive use case.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's an area that I really don't know a lot about. But what I do know is that, for instance, in Norway we have a large aquaculture industry, and they need a lot of food, as you say. And the protein source is interesting. A lot of the protein source in that food stock is imported.
It's imported from like soybeans from overseas.
Right. So if we can get protein production in Norway supported by excess heat from, for instance, data centers, I think that's a very, very good idea, and I would very much like to explore the possibilities into that. Yeah, and that's another part of the value chain for aquaculture, of course. So that's really interesting. But we have identified. In addition, we are looking into greenhouses and greenhouse production. We are looking into other manufacturing activities that, in some part of their process, need heat for drying, for instance. So there are a lot of possibilities. The challenge is we need to have them fairly close to our data centers. And at our existing sites, well, of course, we need to work with what we have. We are collaborating with the municipalities and trying to attract the neighbors that we could have a good relationship to, and that would have a benefit from our excess heat. But I think that if we are looking into the future, what we need to do is really to challenge the local government and the regional government to think about industrial symbiosis when they're planning new industrial areas.
Exactly, and then we're talking about zoning and regulations and permits for this. So I think that I completely agree with you. I think we as the whole industry, we have a tremendous job to face to really to make this to signify why this is important.
Yeah.
But I would also remind you, Torkild, that you are, I think the Norwegian data center industry in 2024 consumed about 2 terawatt hours in total, and that's including the guys we don't want to be affiliated with, the crypto miners. The process industry is somewhere between 35 and 40. Do you work together with them? Because obviously they have a much bigger problem than you in terms of pure volumes of heat that's basically going up the smokestack or out as hot water in any fjord. Do you see any potential symbiosis on research or product development with these?
I do. Process industry, traditional process industry has dealt with excess heat for a long time. But they also have streams of higher temperature excess heat, and that's more easy to make use of, or to
has more use cases that's readily available.
There's a lot of use cases where industry supplies, for instance, district heating with energy. At least from my point of view, what I see is that these industries has not really been that focused on the low temperature streams, because they have challenges also with the higher temperature stream. So that's where they put their efforts, and that that's reasonable. But we do have common interest in solving the challenge or the problem or opportunity, if you like, with lower temperature excess heat. So I would very much appreciate, or I would advocate for more collaboration in that field. And it's also happening now, because what we see is that from the EU, a lot of the support schemes when it comes to research and development and also business development are focusing more on these rogue energy streams.
Yeah, right.
And with those support schemes, you get an interest from research institutes and universities and so on, and they collaborate also with process industries, and that's where we meet them. And I think that's a very good development.
Yeah, it's positive, because I think that the last thing we need is some kind of an artificial conflict between two types of industry, because we have basically the same end game, all of us, the end goal, all of us, to improve society and be more sustainable.
To move back, so the main challenge today is it's not the will from the data center industry to deploy projects or to invest in excess heat utilization. It's really the business case that really is not good enough to support the investments. So that's the main problem today. It can be mitigated with better planning, as we say, if we have an industrial area with a diverse portfolio, not only power demanding activities and industries, but also the off-takers.
Yeah, the off-takers, and that's a huge variety of them.
Yeah, so that would be very good. And also what we are working on from the data center industry is also to get higher temperatures on our excess heat, because the higher the temperature, the better the business case.
Yeah, and that's where my wild guess on this is, and this is where the new technology, the new GPUs and the entrance of AI
Yeah.
or machine learning infrastructure and GPUs will allow for that.
Yeah, so in a broad sense, what we see is that all these racks within a data center, the power density is going up. So you get more capacity on a smaller footprint, and with more capacity, you get more heat, the higher need for cooling, and in that picture, I think we also have possibilities to make the temperatures higher. But this is something that we as a data center operator, we need to do this in collaboration with our customers, because our customers, they're the one that owns the IT equipment, and they're the one that sets the requirements for instance, temperature.
And the customer is always right.
Not always.
Almost always.
No, but I think really this is very interesting, and I think we will get to a point where we see much higher temperatures going forward. And as you mentioned, AI is one of the drivers behind that. We will see new and more efficient cooling solutions. So yeah, I think things are going the right way.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would add to this discussion? Because in my mind, I think we have covered really the broad scope within the frames of this short video podcast. So is there anything we should address before we end it?
Well, I think one thing that we have not touched upon, that I think will be increasingly important going forward, is biodiversity.
Right.
So climate crisis, everyone has, this is something that we are quite familiar with. Yeah. It's a huge challenge. But we also have a nature crisis, where we, in our focus areas, we call it biodiversity. So how can we make sure that we have low or no negative impact on biodiversity? And that's also a challenge, because what we need is, of course, land and power and people. That's a challenge that we cannot solve that challenge on our own. And then we're back to authorities planning for new industrial sites and such. We need to work with them to make available brownfields, areas that are already or has been used, and we need to make authorities plan for utilizing brownfield at another scale than what we are seeing today. You need to see this in context with power, other kinds of infrastructure, and what is available, of course. But I think the pressure on the biodiversity will increase going forward. Green Mountain, as a leading player in the data center industry, we should take lead and be proactive towards authorities to get the future-proof solutions that we need. Because if we are going to succeed on our growth trajectory, we definitely need land. But we would like to have brownfields and not having a negative impact on biodiversity.
Yeah, and I think that really sounds good in everybody's ears, that this is a very sensitive topic for you, that to lessen the impact on nature.
Yeah.
For every new project you have. And of course, ideally, we should build on brownfields.
Yeah.
But as everybody knows, as this industry is going to scale up, the availability of brownfield sites will be far.
Yeah, but we need also to make sure or do what we can to have these areas available, and then we need to push also on authorities. And what we see from regulation side, from the EU, all these initiatives are really pointing in that direction. And if we are to be EU taxonomy aligned, biodiversity is one of the topics that we need to address and to answer in a good way.
What haven't we covered so far? I think we have covered we have been mentioning that this is an energy-intensive industry. And as of today, Norway has a positive power balance. That means that we have a surplus of renewable energy. What do you think will happen with Norway as we shrinken this surplus and potentially go into a zero balance?
Obviously, it's a huge debate going on in Norway how to secure our future power demand. What we know is that we need more power generation. We need more renewable power generation. It's conflicted.
Torkild, we addressed this in the former episode.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay.
So, but if I would just wanted to hear you out on this perspective.
What I would like to say is that what we are discussing in our strategy going forward, what role should Green Mountain take when it comes to power generation? And I will not reveal our inner thoughts about this, but what I can say is that we are moving towards taking a bigger responsibility for power generation. Yeah.
And on that note, I think we say thank you, Torkild, for meeting up and having this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
For myself, it was educational, and I hope for all of you who have been listening into this interview that you find it useful and you liked it. And if you liked it, please don't forget to subscribe to the Norwegian Data Center TV channel. And I see you soon in the next episode.